Melva threw the engagement ring onto the kitchen counter and said, "Wedding's off." She said it like it was just another argument, like she had done a dozen times before. But this time, I did not chase her. I did not beg. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. 36 hours later, everything she thought belonged to her started to fall apart. One booking, one bank account, one condo at a time. Before I begin, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see what happens when a man finally stops chasing. This story might change how you see relationships forever. I met Melva 4 years ago at a networking event in downtown Denver. I was 32 years old working in commercial real estate, and honestly, I was not looking for anything serious that night. I just wanted to make some connections, maybe close a deal or two. But then she walked in. 29 years old, wearing this deep blue dress that seemed to catch every light in the room. She worked in marketing, she said, and the way she talked about her projects made everything sound exciting. I was hooked from the first conversation. Those early days felt like something out of a movie. We would spend entire weekends exploring coffee shops around the city. She would text me good morning every single day without fail. I remember thinking that I had finally found the one person who understood me. My parents passed away when I was in my early 20s, and my Aunt Helen raised me through the hardest years of my life. When I introduced Melva to Aunt Helen, they seemed to get along beautifully. Aunt Helen even pulled me aside and said she was happy I found someone. That meant the world to me. But looking back now, I can see the red flags that I chose to ignore. The first time Melva forgot her wallet at dinner, I thought it was cute. The second time, I figured she was just forgetful. By the 10th time, it had become a pattern I refused to acknowledge. 6 months into our relationship, she lost her job. Marketing positions are unstable, she explained, and I believed her. I started covering her rent. It was only temporary, she promised. A year into dating, Melva moved into my condo. It made sense financially, she argued. Why pay 2 rents when we could save money together? The condo was mine, inherited from my parents, along with a significant sum of money that I had invested wisely over the years. Melva never contributed to the mortgage because there was no mortgage to pay. She never offered to split utilities either, and I never asked. Then came the credit card debt. $17,000 spread across 3 different cards. She sat me down one evening with tears in her eyes and confessed everything. She felt so ashamed, she said. She did not know how it got so bad. I paid it off the next day because that is what you do for someone you love, right? You help them, you support them, you do not keep score. My best friend Derek saw through everything from the beginning. We had been friends since college, and he never sugarcoated anything for me. One night over beers, he looked me straight in the eyes and said that Melva was testing my limits and that I kept failing the test. I told him he did not understand our relationship. He told me I was blinded by something that looked like love but was not. The threats started about 2 years in. Every time we disagreed on something, no matter how small, Melva would threaten to leave. The first time, I panicked. I apologized for things I had not done, bought flowers, took her to her favorite restaurant. The second time, I did the same thing. By the 20th time, it had become a ritual. She would threaten. I would chase. She would forgive me for whatever imaginary offense I had committed. The cycle continued. After 3 years together, I proposed. The ring cost $22,000 because Melva had strategically left browser tabs open on my laptop, showing exactly what she wanted. She said yes immediately and posted it on social media before I even had a chance to call Aunt Helen. The comments poured in. "So happy for you. You deserve this. He is so lucky to have you." I read them all and felt proud. The wedding planning started the very next day. Melva wanted a destination wedding in Aspen at this exclusive resort that overlooked the mountains. The estimated cost was $120,000. I did not flinch because I had the money, and I wanted to give her the wedding of her dreams. I put down deposits on everything. The venue cost $15,000. The photographer was $8,000. The caterer wanted $12,000 up front. The band, the florist, the cake, the dress. $45,000 in deposits, all under my name, because Melva said it was easier that way. She would handle the planning she promised. I just needed to handle the payments. Looking back, I should have noticed that she never once offered to contribute anything, not a single dollar toward our future together. But love makes you blind to things you do not want to see. 3 weeks before the wedding, the arguments intensified. It started with the guest list. Melva wanted to invite her former coworkers from a job she held for only 4 months. I said it seemed unnecessary given our limited space. She accused me of not caring about her friendships. Threat number 1 that week. Then came the issue of my college friend Sarah. We had known each other since freshman orientation. Completely platonic. She was happily married with 2 kids. I wanted to invite her and her husband because they were important to me. Melva said, absolutely not. She did not want any woman from my past at her wedding. When I pushed back, she threatened to call the whole thing off. Threat number 2. The third threat came when I suggested we might want to trim the budget slightly. The costs had ballooned beyond the original estimate, and while I could afford it, financial responsibility seemed wise. Melva looked at me like I had suggested we cancel Christmas. She said if I truly loved her, money would not be an issue. She said maybe we should not get married at all if I was going to be cheap about it. Threat number 3. Each time I apologized. Each time I gave in. Each time Derek would shake his head and ask me how much more I was willing to take. The night everything changed started like any other Thursday. I came home exhausted from work. A complicated deal had fallen through, and I just wanted to eat something, watch television, and go to sleep. But Melva was sitting at the kitchen table with the seating chart spread out in front of her. She had that look on her face. The one that meant a storm was coming. She told me we needed to talk about the seating arrangements. I sat down across from her, hoping this would be quick. She pointed at the diagram and explained that she had made some changes. Aunt Helen. My Aunt Helen, the woman who raised me after my parents died, had been moved from the VIP table near the front to a table in the back corner of the venue. I asked her why she would do that. Her answer still echoes in my mind. She said Aunt Helen was not sophisticated enough to sit with her friends and family. She said Aunt Helen would embarrass her with her simple clothes and her simple conversation. She said the VIP table was for important people. I felt something shift inside me. A wall that had been crumbling for years finally collapsed. I told Melva that Aunt Helen was the most important person in my life. I told her that without Aunt Helen, I would not have survived losing my parents. I told her that this was not negotiable. Melva stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. She started yelling about how I never prioritized her, how everyone else always came first, how she was tired of being second place in my life. Her voice got louder and louder until she was screaming. I sat there in silence, watching her like I was seeing her clearly for the first time. Then she did what she always did. She reached for her left hand, pulled off the engagement ring, and threw it onto the counter. The sound it made when it hit the granite was sharper than I expected. She grabbed her purse from the chair next to her and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she stopped and turned around. "Wedding is off," she said. "I am done. You always choose everyone else over me." She stood there waiting. I knew what she expected. She expected me to jump up, to rush over to grab her arm and beg her to stay. She expected apologies and promises. She expected the same dance we had performed countless times before. But something in me had finally broken. Or maybe something had finally healed. I looked at her standing there, backlit by the hallway light, and I felt an unfamiliar calm wash over me. I thought about Derek's words. I thought about Aunt Helen's sad eyes every time she heard about our arguments. I thought about 4 years of chasing someone who seemed to enjoy being chased more than she enjoyed being caught. I did not stand up. I did not move toward her. I just looked at her and said 2 words. "Okay, drive safe." Her expression shifted from expectation to confusion to shock in the span of 3 seconds. She waited a moment longer, giving me one last chance to play my part. When I did not move, She turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her, hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I sat in the silence for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called Vincent. Vincent and I went to college together. He became a lawyer specialized in family law and civil disputes, and he had been warning me about Melva for almost as long as Derek had. When he answered the phone at 9:30 on a Thursday night, his first words were asking me what she did this time. I told him she ended the engagement. He asked if I was okay. I said I was better than okay. I told him I was finally ready to protect myself. We talked for 2 hours that night. Vincent walked me through everything I needed to know. The condo was mine, inherited, and fully paid off with only my name on the deed. Melva had no legal claim to it, despite living there for 3 years. The joint bank account I had opened for her convenience contained my money exclusively. She had deposited nothing into it since its creation. Every deposit, every dollar came from my accounts. The credit cards in her wallet were supplementary cards tied to my accounts. The Mercedes she drove was purchased by me and titled in my name alone. The wedding deposits were more complicated, but Vincent had good news there too. Because I had signed all the contracts myself, I had the authority to cancel them. Some venues and vendors had cancellation policies that would allow partial refunds if we acted quickly. Others would keep the deposits, but at least Melva would not be able to claim any of it. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I made a list. By 6 in the morning, I had a plan. The first call went to my bank. I explained the situation to the manager, who happened to be someone I had worked with on several real estate transactions. The joint account was frozen within the hour. The supplementary credit cards were canceled by 8 in the morning. The second call went to my building management. I requested an emergency lock change, citing a domestic situation. They sent someone over by 10. When the locksmith finished, he handed me 3 new keys. I put 2 in my pocket and gave the third to the building manager for safekeeping. The third call went to the Mercedes dealership. I explained that I needed to retrieve my vehicle from an unauthorized driver. They connected me with a towing service that specialized in these situations. The car would be picked up before the end of the day. While all this was happening, my phone stayed silent. Melva had not called. She had not texted. She was probably at some hotel using what she thought was still a valid credit card, posting cryptic messages on Instagram about knowing her worth and not settling for less. I checked her profile once and saw exactly what I expected: vague quotes about strength and independence, comments from her friends asking if she was okay, heart emojis and fire emojis and praise for her courage. She had no idea what was coming. The first crack in her facade appeared around hour 12. I imagine she tried to check out of whatever hotel she had chosen for her dramatic exit. I imagine she handed over the credit card with confidence, maybe even a little smugness. I imagine the look on her face when the transaction was declined. She called me for the first time since leaving. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Same result. The third time I answered. Her voice was different, less angry, more confused. She asked what was going on with the credit card. I kept my tone neutral and calm. I told her that I thought she had made herself clear last night and that I was respecting her decision. She asked what that was supposed to mean. I told her the card had been canceled because our engagement was over and there was no reason for her to have access to my accounts anymore. She started to argue, but I interrupted her. I wished her well and told her to take care. Then I hung up. She called back 17 more times over the next few hours. I did not answer again. Hour 24 brought her back to the condo. I was not there. I had gone to stay with Derek for a few days, partly to avoid any confrontation, and partly because he had a really comfortable guest room. My building manager called me to report that a woman matching Melva's description was in the lobby demanding to be let into my unit. She claimed to live there. He informed her that her name was not on the lease and that the locks had been changed at the resident's request. She caused a scene. He called security. By hour 30, Melva had realized this was not a bluff. She called me again, and this time I answered because I wanted her to understand the situation fully. She was crying, asking what she had done to deserve this. I reminded her calmly that she had ended our engagement and walked out. I told her I was simply following through on her decision. She threatened to call the police. I told her she was welcome to do that and that my lawyer had already prepared documentation proving my sole ownership of the property. She called anyway. 2 officers arrived, reviewed the situation, and informed Melva that this was a civil matter and that she had no legal right to enter a residence that she did not own or rent. They suggested she contact a lawyer if she believed otherwise. Hour 36 was when everything truly collapsed for her. I spent that morning on the phone with every wedding vendor. The venue in Aspen was first. The manager was understanding, almost sympathetic. She processed the cancellation and confirmed that I would receive 60% of the deposit back due to the timing. The photographer was next, then the caterer, then the band. Each conversation was brief and professional. By noon, the wedding that Melva had spent months planning existed only in her imagination. She found out when she called the wedding planner to confirm some last-minute details. I heard about it later from a mutual acquaintance. Apparently, Melva had phoned in expecting to discuss flower arrangements or table settings or some other detail. The wedding planner apologized and informed her that Mr. Marcus had canceled all arrangements earlier that day. There would be no wedding. Melva reportedly dropped her phone. The Mercedes was recovered that afternoon. The towing company located it in the parking structure of her friend's apartment building and loaded it onto the flatbed while Melva was upstairs. She came running out just in time to watch it drive away. Her screaming could be heard from 3 floors up, according to the driver. The engagement ring was the final piece. Vincent sent a formal letter to Melva's last known address, which was now her friend's apartment, demanding the return of the ring. He cited Colorado law, which clearly states that an engagement ring is a conditional gift. If the condition of marriage is not met, the ring must be returned to the giver. Melva had 3 options. She could return the ring voluntarily, she could be sued for its value, or she could face criminal charges for theft. She chose option 1. During all of this, Melva launched a social media campaign against me. She posted long paragraphs about emotional abuse and financial control. She painted herself as a victim, escaping a toxic relationship. She tagged mutual friends and demanded they choose sides. The response was not what she expected. People who knew us both saw through the narrative. Derek commented on one of her posts with a simple question. He asked if being supported financially for 4 years and having all debts paid off counted as abuse these days. Others echoed similar sentiments. Within a week, Melva had deleted most of her posts and made her accounts private. 2 weeks after she threw that ring on my counter, Melva reached out asking to meet. She wanted to talk, she said. She wanted to explain. She wanted another chance. Against Derek's advice and my own better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. A public place, neutral ground. She looked different when she walked in, smaller somehow. The confidence that had always seemed to radiate from her was dimmed. She sat down across from me and immediately started crying. She apologized for everything, for the way she treated me, for taking me for granted, for the things she said about Aunt Helen. She promised she would change if I gave her one more opportunity. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I took a deep breath and said what I had rehearsed in my mind for days. I told her that I forgave her. I meant it. Holding on to anger would only poison my own life. But I also told her that forgiveness did not mean reconciliation. I explained that I had spent 4 years losing myself in our relationship, giving up pieces of who I was to keep her happy, and I could not do that anymore. I wished her well. I hoped she would find what she was looking for, but that search would not include me. She tried to argue. She tried to bargain. She even tried to get angry again, as if the old patterns might still work. But I remained calm. Eventually, she accepted what I was saying. We finished our coffees in silence, and then we said goodbye. Not with hatred, not with bitterness, just with the quiet acknowledgement that this chapter was over. The months that followed were harder than I expected. 4 years is a long time to share your life with someone, even someone who did not treat you well. I missed the good parts. The late night conversations, the lazy Sunday mornings, the feeling of having someone beside me when I woke up. I allowed myself to grieve what I had lost while also celebrating what I had gained. Aunt Helen became my anchor during this time. She would come over with containers of food and stories about my parents. She told me things about my mother that I had never heard before, how she had almost married the wrong man before meeting my father, how she had learned to trust herself and walk away from situations that diminished her. I realized that my mother's strength lived in me too. I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Patterson. Once a week, I would sit in her office and untangle the knots in my mind. She helped me understand why I had tolerated treatment that I never should have accepted. She helped me see the patterns that had repeated throughout my life. She gave me tools to build healthier relationships in the future. Derek remained my constant companion through it all. He never said "I told you so," not once, even though he had every right to. Instead, he focused on helping me move forward. Golf games on Saturday mornings, dinners at new restaurants we wanted to try, trips to sporting events that Melva had always refused to attend. Slowly, I rediscovered the parts of myself that had been buried under the weight of a dysfunctional relationship. I heard updates about Melva occasionally, usually through mutual acquaintances. She moved back to her hometown to live with her parents. She found a job in retail management. She started dating someone new, a quiet man who seemed different from me in every way. I hoped she had changed. I hoped she treated him better than she had treated me. But honestly, her life was no longer my concern. What I know now is this. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop chasing. For years, I believed that my devotion proved my love. Every time I ran after Melva, every time I apologized for things I had not done, every time I sacrificed my own needs for hers, I thought I was being a good partner. But real love does not require you to abandon yourself. Real love does not use threats as currency. Real love does not keep you constantly off balance, wondering if today will be the day they finally leave for good. The moment Melva said the wedding was off, she expected me to panic. She expected the same reaction she had gotten every time before. Instead, I said okay. That single word changed everything. It showed both of us that I had finally found my limit, the line I would not cross, the self-respect I had buried for too long. I am seeing someone new now. Her name is Catherine, and we have been dating for about 6 months. Things are different this time. There are no threats, no dramatic exits, no tests of my devotion. When we disagree, we talk about it like adults. When she is upset, she tells me why instead of making me guess. When I set a boundary, she respects it. It feels strange sometimes, this ease, this peace. I am still learning to trust it. I do not know if Catherine is the one I will spend my life with. The future is uncertain, and I have learned not to make promises I cannot keep. But I know one thing for certain. I will never lose myself in a relationship again. I will never chase someone who uses leaving as a weapon. I will never apologize for being who I am. If you are watching this and something in my story resonates with you, I want you to think about something. Is there someone in your life you keep chasing? Someone who makes you feel like you are never quite enough? Someone who uses threats to control you? If there is, I want you to know that you deserve better. You deserve someone who stays. You deserve someone who chooses you without conditions. You deserve peace. Let me know in the comments if you have ever been in a similar situation. Have you ever stopped chasing someone who expected you to follow? What happened when you finally said, "Okay," instead of "please stay"? I would love to hear your stories. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future stories. And remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand still while everyone expects you to run. Thank you for listening to my story today. I hope you find the peace and the self-respect that you deserve. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.